Hello, my name's Jack Howard, and welcome to The Screen Test, the show where we take some of our favourite films and TV shows and put them through a series of rounds to decide officially and definitively which is the greatest of all time. And this isn't just an opinions thing, this is science.
Yay! Oh!
It's getting close.
I am ready to come for you for absolute disrespect.
It's chaos.
Welcome to Earth.
Oh my god.
Can I pass?
You're currently losing.
We called Harrison Ford, but he didn't answer.
There's a storm coming! It ain't over till the fat lady sing, and I'm not singing yet.
Joining me on my quest is chief film critic of The Independent, Clarisse Loughrey, critic and journalist Hanna Flint, and Bam, who is an armchair critic, voice of the people.
That's right, man. I watch movies. I like movies.
That's all we need here. So I was looking around for inspiration for what this first episode should be about, and I saw Greenland, starring Gerard Butler, has just come onto Prime Video.
Come on, let's go.
But the sky's on fire.
But instead of saving the world like he usually does, this time he's just sort of watching it blow up.
If you are hearing this broadcast,
John, go!
It's got everything that you want from a disaster movie. Scenes of mass destruction, check. Incredible CGI, check. A hero saving the day against all odds. Yeah, Gerard Butler, check.
swear I'm gonna get my family into that bunker.
Seek shelter immediately. Seek shelter immediately.
But what makes a disaster movie for you guys? Like that, I think we need to, more so than most genres, we need to decide what disaster movie means.
I mean, the golden age for me is the 70s and the 60s Poseidon Adventure, where it's all about getting together this massive ensemble cast and to put them just in absolute peril where there is no control. And I think the lack of control is what's really important here, because it's the idea of playing off that fear of like, what do you do when you're in a situation where you are absolutely powerless?
Hanna, what do you think a disaster movie is? What do you think it needs to have in order to be classed as a disaster film?
Well, a really big disaster, I think. You can't get like, people need to die. Like, I think, you know, I absolutely agree. I love what your sentiments there, Clarisse. But I feel, you know, when I watch disaster movies, there's like you said, a big cross-section, good of society, these ensemble casts, like there's so many people. You've got like the politicians, you've got like the guy on the street, you've got the alcoholic, you've got the woman, you know, there's everyone that you could think of in the cast to make it up, say, look, we're representing every single part of this society that's about to get blown up, or we're on an airplane and actually all these people, there's the rich guy in first class, you know, stakes on a plane. Disaster movie, if you think about it, I mean, that's double hit. And you also get Samuel Jackson saying motherfucking stakes on a motherfucking plane. Like, that's what you're kind of wanting. But I think, yeah, disaster movies have to have this big event that's seismic, something that is going to affect a lot of people. You know, I love that you mentioned Poseidon Adventure, you know, Titanic. Again, that's I think it's one of the greatest ones. Because
if we take it back, though, does Jaws count as a disaster film, like one of the first like iterations of things? Like Clarisse is shaking her head.
Because they blow spoilers for Jaws, but they blow the shark up at the end. It's really easy. You just blow the shark up and he's gone.
So you think that a disaster Bam, we'll get to you in a second. I realise that you're just taking all this in.
I'm processing.
You think a disaster movie, the human race in a way needs to lose?
Well,
it's
an idea
way
that
to not fight for your own people.
It's just an idea that you can't stop it. So, which is why I think for disaster movies, it almost always has to be either a natural disaster or something like a boat sinking, where the boat started to sink. You can't bring the boat back.
Okay.
Yeah, but I think just there, you know, yes, they should be in some way unstoppable, and like there is a massive loss of life, so people have to die. I think it's not a disaster movie if there isn't fundamentally that. But I think also, like with disaster movies, there has to be like the human element of it. Like I love it when there's kind of, you know, there's a separation, like this couple, they're supposed to be together, but then they're, you know, pulled one side and they're just trying to return back to each other. You know, Greenland, which I watch, it has that element to it, you know. Independence Day has that element to it. You know, even like Mars Attacks, they're like, you know, that one is an amazing alien invasion, which is affecting the whole world, right? Because it's a whole worldwide disaster. Lots of people are dying on it. So I think it's that kind of, how do we talk about something? How do we have a film where, you know, yeah, you've got the big action sequences. Yeah, you've got this kind of loss of life, but also the human, like fundamentally emotions and the heart of it that brings us together and unites us. And yes, you might think like, oh yeah, American jingoism, the patriotism of, you know, Independence Day. But actually, I feel especially right now, where we're in this kind of pandemic, you know, having that hopeful vision of people overcoming these horrible situations. You know, you look at The Impossible, that film, that's a natural disaster that's based on the real life from that tsunami. You don't want to see everyone perish. You want to have hope. And I think disaster movies
I want to see everyone perish. I'll be real with you. Like, it's not a disaster if you've got hope in a situation. Like, you can cling on to hope, but I want to see that hope crushed in front of you. I want to see people absolutely destroyed in a global situation. You don't even think people are going to get out of it in that situation. And I feel like on the one side of things, natural disasters, 100%. It's got to be global. It can't just be, you know, Titanic's great, but that's a small amount of people, a small amount of rich people as well. Who cares? They're all gone. Let them sink, right? But if we're talking about the average person in peril, that's a disaster movie to me. I don't think the alien movies, like invasions, count so much because that's not so much of like a natural situation. But on the flip side of that, you could take something like Planet of the Apes, especially the recent ones, where it's like something that happens within the earth, like some form of nature most of the time, actually overtaking humanity as itself. Because ultimately, most of these stories are like, oh, the human element, like the person surviving, that's what we want to see because we're humans. But I want to see the monkeys killing everybody because we've had our time. We had our time on the planet and we squandered it, you know. Let them rise up and see what they can do with it. That's the hope that I have when I'm watching it. Let the tornado win. Let Sharknado win. Let's see what they can do with the planet moving forward. Is a lot of my approach to what I think makes a good disaster. Because if not, like, if you have a solid amount of hope, then you're not feeling the effects of the movie enough, you know?
I really find this interesting that the controversial way of defining what a disaster film is. That, Bam, you think it needs to be on a huge global scale and really has to be a natural disaster.
Yes.
Clarisse said lack of control. You said human lives need to be taken, but there needs to be hope in it. Let's get specific now, though. Clarisse, you start. Tell us what it is that you've picked and why it is that you've picked it.
Yeah, so I picked a slightly weird one because I think it adheres so much to what I believe the disaster movie is, so I think it counts. I picked Jeff Nichols's Take Shelter, starring Michael Shannon and Jessica Chastain. And the story is basically that Michael Shannon has a bit of a Cassandra complex where he can sense that something bad is about to happen, that a disaster is incoming. And he's trying to wrestle with the idea of, right, am I right? Or is this mental illness? Like, is this something inside of my own brain is conjuring this? So it's the idea of the disaster. It has all the emotions of these grand disaster movies like Poseidon Adventure, but it's basically all been concentrated inside of this dude's brain.
I think that Take Shelter is a beautiful film, and I think both Michael Shannon and Jessica Chastain deliver such delicate, truthful performances, and I think it's an incredible exploration of mental health and how it can tear people apart, but also the hopeful aspect where it can show you that communication is there within a relationship. You can really fight through it and find somewhere hopeful out of it. You can work through these sort of things together. I think you're cheating a little bit because I think that Take Shelter is such a psychological drama that it's not really about the disasters that are happening. It's about, I suppose it's a disaster happening in someone's brain.
Well, this is the thing. It's like, I mean, I feel like it counts because there's lots of different interpretations. I would argue that it's pretty solid that a tornado does happen.
Ooh, okay. Well, we need to get to that later. I think we shouldn't get too specific on your movie straight away because I want to get through everybody else's choices.
I'm sorry, I went straight in.
Immediately, I completely disagree with you, but let's talk about that in a bit. Hannah, what is your pick? Calm down, Clarisse.
Well, I feel like this is an iconic giveaway, Independence Day, which I will readily admit, it's a very basic plot.
Just say it, it's rubbish.
How dare you, sir? It is about the aliens they're coming, and within 2 days they're going to decimate the human population because
mostly America, though.
No, but yeah, I mean, look, we can get into whether, you know, the whole American setting. It's an American-made movie about American people. I mean, aliens have come from another planet, and their whole shtick is, hey, we just come and colonize and use all your resources, and then we go somewhere else. That's their whole bag. And
so in a way, it is a sort of force of nature that they come and just destroy.
See, I just want to just quickly just go back to what is a disaster movie, and this is also a defense of you, Clarisse, as well. So I hope you appreciate it. Films nowadays and how we watch them, they're not pure, they can have a crossover and there's subgenres, right? So the disaster movie, yes, that's the umbrella term, but you have, you add the prefix. You said natural disaster. You have alien disaster. You've got geostorm, weather disaster.
Big monster.
You've got monster. Godzilla's a disaster movie. So I think it's if there's a disaster.
If Roland Emmerich has put his name to it, it's probably a disaster.
Well, 100%. And I'm pretty
disaster of
sure
a movie.
there would be no Day After Tomorrow if there was an Independence Day. So.
I mean, he made both of them, didn't
he? Exactly. So anyway, Independence Day, aliens are coming, and like you said, there's a cross-section of people that we follow, an ensemble cast, and it's up to them to try and work out how can they stop these aliens from totally wiping the whole planet out. Starts on July 2nd, ends on July 4th, Independence Day for the win.
Bam, what have you chosen and why?
All right, so I've gone with The Day After Tomorrow, which is pretty much you got Roland, same director from Independence Day. He's had some time to think about it. He's gone, oh, you know what? Technically, Independence Day is more like an alien invasion movie than a natural disaster sort of disaster movie. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my fame from that. I'm known for doing big destructive stuff. I'm going to move forward. We're not going to have what if aliens attack Earth? What if Earth attacks Earth, right? And that's his whole premise for this. But he did it at a point in time where we're talking about global warming and the effects that life can have, if we had to live through our own repercussions, essentially. What happened if that all speeds up? You got Greta Thunberg in there saying thumbs up on this movie, watch it, go out there. You need to see what's happening.
Is that an official review from Greta?
Yeah, I saw it on her Twitter. So the thing about it is, it's, you've seen the movie. I don't need to describe. You watching at home, you've seen this movie, and if not, it's the one where everything gets covered in ice because of global warming. But it's a disaster movie in its purest form because we go through all of the good elements. You like Twister, we've thrown in a bit of Twister. You like seeing New York get destroyed, we've thrown in a bit of that. It's going to get frozen up. It's got a big mix across the board, and in this movie he's taken a lot of inspiration where he's gone, yeah, fair enough, I did too much focus on America, I'm at least going to throw some Brits and other characters in across the world into this one, so you get a bit more of a global response to what's going on, which is essentially, polar ice caps are melted and then that causes a massive new ice age.
We're now going to get on to the rounds, and the first one that we're going to do is a pretty simple and easy and pretty fun one, and it's the IMDB rating. So I want us to try and figure out individually which one you think, out of the ones that you've picked, has the highest rating on IMDB, and which one you think has the lowest on IMDB, and then whoever actually does have the highest rating will get the first point. So, Clarisse, going to come to you first. What do you think, in terms of ranking, what position do you think they're in?
I think Independence Day, because it's so popular and it is quite, I'm shooting myself in the foot here by saying this, but it's really popular and influential and everyone's kind of seen it. So I feel like that would have the highest score. I think Take Shelter, most people really love it, but it's a little bit of a weird one. So there's going to be detractors who go, it's too confusing. They didn't tell me the whole plot at the beginning and I didn't like it. And then I'm sorry, I think Day After Tomorrow is maybe the bottom. Because
okay, Hannah,
Fair
what do you
enough.
think?
See, I actually think Take Shelter would do better because I feel like IMDb is has far more cinephiles on it who, I respect Take Shelter a lot, and I think it probably is inched above Independence Day in that regard. And I don't think Day After Tomorrow. I think Day After Tomorrow is last. So I think it's Take Shelter, Independence Day, and then Day After Tomorrow.
Bam.
I'm going to go Independence Day, Day After Tomorrow, and Take Shelter, just because you two seem to be teaming up, and I'm gonna flip it up.
Sorry, it's not.
Simple as that.
Okay, well, let's find out what it is. Alexa, what does Take Shelter have on IMDb?
Take Shelter has an IMDb rating of 7.4 out of 10.
Alexa, what does Independence Day have on IMDb?
Independence Day has an IMDb rating of 7 out of 10.
So at the moment, Take Shelter 7.4, Independence Day 7.0. Alexa, What rating does Day After Tomorrow have on IMDb?
The Day After Tomorrow has an IMDb rating of 6.4 out of 10.
So there we have it. Clarisse, you win the first point because Take Shelter has 7.4 out of 10 on IMDb. So you win the first round. I agree as well. I think that Take Shelter is the best one because it's, like I say, I think you're cheating a little bit. Anyway. Okay, so that means the first round, Clarisse, you get 3 points for Take Shelter. Hanna, you get 2 points for Independence Day. And Bam, I'm sorry, you've got 1 point because you've gone with The Day After Tomorrow. But the people have spoken. Yeah. IMDb has the final say on this first round.
Hey, what's Rotten Tomatoes saying? We're not getting a second
I think you'll do worse on there, mate.
Okay, on to the second round now, which is memorable scenes. I want to talk about what it is in your film that you think stands out above everybody else's. It can be as simple as just having one cool action scene that you'd love to watch over and over again. It can be multiple examples that your film has, but it has to be better than everybody else's. So, going to start with Bam this time. What is it that The Day After Tomorrow has in memorable scenes that everybody else's doesn't have?
Can I be honest in this, yeah?
Go ahead.
Nothing. like I'm not even going to stand here and attempt to argue this one. Independence Day, take your points, next round.
You genuinely... So I actually disagree. I think that the destruction and the way that it's done in The Day After Tomorrow is better than Independence Day. I think that those natural disaster things are better than Independence Day.
Yeah, but you're talking about memorable scenes, not like good, like... Come on now.
Come on. Welcome to Earth. Welcome to Earth.
Oh
you
my
think
God.
I'm beating Welcome to Earth?
I almost forgot that Will Smith punches an alien in the face.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I mean, like, I actually, sorry, I'm taking your time, Bam, but I really struggled in picking just one memorable scene because
you've got the guy that goes like this.
Phil, like, oh my God, like Randy Quaid, like, sorry, you know what? Bam, have you moved on? Is it on me now? Because
you can
like,
take it.
I think he's giving it to you.
I've
He
given
literally
up
is
this
telling me
round.
to award you the points.
I mean, look, what that is.
That's what
I'll just point at this and be done. But like that is one of the most iconic scenes ever made.
Okay, but how about controversially then? There's a scene where Jeff Goldblum says "must go faster," which is ripped straight out of Jurassic Park.
Okay, sure, but you know,
doesn't that lose for originality?
No, that's like
not
an Easter
really,
egg,
because
really,
there's
isn't
a bit, and then it has the bit just before that. It's like, as the fat lady sings, like, stop, why'd you you're obsessed with the fat lady. Like, there's so many ways, or like Randy Quaid going like, hello boys, I'm back, and then literally just going straight up into it and destroying it. There's so many ways, and I haven't even got onto Thomas Whitmore's goddamn speech.
Exactly.
Which, I'm sorry, like, I know this is like the most
Bam, you're on the wrong
American
team.
jingoism thing you've ever heard, but I still know the final lines of that speech.
Do it for us.
It's like, what is it? Oh, I said that, now it's out of my head. It's like, we will not go quietly into the night. We will not vanish without a fight. We will go on. We will survive. Today, we celebrate our Independence Day. Mic drop. Done. Everyone's cheering.
Bam! You're losing. You're currently losing.
Hey, have you seen that guy's salute?
Mate,
though? That in
it's
itself.
like I didn't even deliver it properly. Like I'm no Bill Pullman. I will happily admit that. But even that, like, there's so many. Like that moment is one of the best, like, presidential speeches delivered. And yeah, it's got all it's so American. Like, come on, I'm not even denying this is basically like.
But sometimes you
this
like
is
to
make
just sort
America
of bathe
great
in that.
again. What they
Yeah.
want it to be like. That's what they imagine it like. You've got this ex-fighter pilot who's the president, and suddenly, you know, he's an idealist, and they thought he was going to be this fighting president, but actually, stupid bureaucrats in his like team are kind of keeping him down. And then he's like, right, I'm getting in a plane. I'm gonna go fly a plane. It's like the president is fighting. It's best. Honestly, it's the best president in a plane since, like, you know, Air Force One. Like,
obviously.
I mean, it's just iconic. But the marketing for this film is probably the reason why it became like the biggest selling movie of 1996, because they did it so well. They bought they spent like $1.3 million on a Super Bowl commercial, right? And they showed like it made such an impact. Like, you know, they have like Ebert and Cisco was talking about like how actually the marketing campaign, they released some of these. When you saw that image, it was so realistic. I mean, no, like 95% of it was actually just models. The sheer kind of technical achievement of this to
It
create
has
this.
stood the test of time as well. Like, it
And
still looks pretty good.
It does, and that's the thing. I think so amazing about. I mean, when they do that, I mean, Empire State Building, like the White House, seeing these, it was kind of scary. It was like, oh my God,
It's incredibly
that is so
scary.
realistic.
And I think
Yeah.
now, after, you know, 9/11. Like, this was pre that. Like, seeing
Yeah.
it now, because actually some of the stuff in Independence Day, it's a little bit tongue, and actually with Day After Tomorrow, there's a bit of this, like, sort of tongue in cheek. It's a little bit funny at times when that sort of stuff is happening. Like, there's the bit in The Day After Tomorrow when the wave is coming towards somebody, and he just goes, "Oh crap!" Like, there's a little bit of like silliness to it.
Yeah.
But actually, it's really difficult to watch some of the stuff that.
By the way, that happens also in Independence Day. Harvey Fierstein, you know, he plays like Jeff Goldblum's boss, and I love him because I've seen it where he's like, "Mom, just leave, go to Aunt Esther's." Then he goes, "Why have I just sent my mom to Atlanta?" And it's just like stupid little line. But there's a bit in it where the fire's coming after just on the Empire State Building.
Is it
and
literally
he
a
looks up
callback
and he
there?
goes, "Oh crap!" And then he's suddenly blown up.
Is it the same actor doing the same joke?
I don't know. I can't remember if he was in that movie as well. But
Is it the guy who plays Robin Williams' brother
got
in
a-
Mrs. Doubtfire?
yeah, he's got
it's
a
the same
very
guy.
raspy-
It's the
Oh,
same
there you
guy.
go.
It's
There
the
we
same
go.
guy. He's
Roland
doing a
Emmerich,
callback
I
to his
love
own
it.
movie. Clarice, what
Yeah.
about you then? And how do you feel about the memorable scenes in Take Shelter?
Well, do you want to talk about the end? I mean, I would say this shot's really good in the movie. Beautifully rendered here as well. But do you want to talk about the ending? I feel like
All
that's
right,
the...
memorable scenes. We'll talk about the ending. Clarice, explain what goes on, and we'll have a chat.
Okay, so I've said, you've had this whole movie of this sort of... Do you know the Cassandra complex? This is from Greek myth. It was this woman that the gods cursed, that she could see the future, but no one would believe her. So throughout the whole film, we have this sort of yes or no, like... Is he actually predicting that this storm is going to happen? Is he correct, or is this just some facet of his mental illness because his mother went through a psychiatric crisis when she was around the same age, and so he's really scared about that. And so you get to about 3/4 of the way through, and I maybe you disagree. I think there is an actual tornado happens because his wife wakes him up and says, "Right, it's time to go into the tornado shelter."
Yes, so that bit, I think, does happen.
Okay.
So the siren does go off, and they do go down
Yeah.
into the shelter, and then they come out of the shelter, and there's a wonderful little moment there. Sorry to take over for this bit. There's a wonderful little moment when it's clearly about mental illness and something that he has to overcome himself, where the dialogue literally says, "No, you have to open this lock. I can't do it for you," which is very much like, double meaning stuff going on there, which made me cry when I saw it, because dealt with all that sort of stuff personally, like that, been through my own battles, and that moment really rang true as a mental health thing. And then it got to the ending, and will you explain what
Well,
you
this
think?
is the thing. We go through this whole thing of him opening the door to the shelter because he's convinced that the storm is still going, and his wife is saying, "No, it's over. I know. Like, we have been through tornadoes before. This is over." And he gets through what seems like this massive breakthrough, that he's able to open the door. He's able to go outside. He sees that what was inside his head was actually just a delusion. Cut to, I don't actually know the time span. Is it like a couple of days or weeks later?
Where they
They're at the
agree that
beach.
he's going to go to a psychiatric hospital,
Yeah.
but they should take some time before that and take a holiday. And this is a holiday they'd been planning, but they didn't know if they could afford it anymore. But they
Yeah.
decided to go, and this is where the end scene takes place on
And
this
so
beach.
up until this point, we're like, all right, okay, this was mental illness. But we get to the very end, and they're on the beach. He's playing with his daughter, and you start to see something in the background. It's the clouds starting to gather, and then you see like a little spire come down to the ocean. It's like an I don't know what they call ocean tornado. and what is incredible is then you switch to the shot of the wife, who's Jessica Chastain's character, and you see her recognizing what's happening.
There's actually a beautiful shot of her where you can see the storm forming in the reflection
in
of the
the
door
reflection of the
next to
window.
her.
And the final line is just, I think it's just her being like, okay.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Well,
So
yeah.
and they have some of the visions come true. So like the oil rain is like on her hands, and
Yeah, so he's had these very specific sort of previsions that it would be raining oil, the clouds would form this certain shape that's sort of like a giant kind of wave.
and the birds act in a very
The
strange
birds
way.
would start flying around and some of them dying, and so you see all these events starting to come together, but we don't really end with the storm. We end with the wife just telling him, okay, yeah, like.
And what is your interpretation of that?
Well, I guess because I love the Cassandra. I'm a Greek history nerd, and I love that myth, and I love the frustration of Cassandra because she spent her entire life like trying to warn people and trying to say, hey, don't do this, and just the fact that no one believed her. And so, I mean, I'm the kind of person that I don't like to apply definitive endings to these kinds of films. I like to just leave it open in my brain. But in this case, I think I tend to lean towards this is really happening just because of how much the ending is focused on Jessica Chastain's reaction and how much is about her processing. I don't know, there's so much weight in that word, okay, and in that look.
I think it's interesting. Go on, sorry, I don't want to interrupt.
No, I just think it makes me think that it's meant to be open, but her recognizing it is really important. Unless that you're going to take away from it that entire beach scene is just in his head. It's just like, you know, none of it's happening.
Well, I think there's many moments throughout Take Shelter where it's never clear at first whether or not we're in a dream or in reality, and it keeps blending between them in a way that only films can. And that ending, when I first watched it, when it ended, I was like a bit frustrated because it felt like it was telling me this was real. And then when I started to sit with it, it felt more metaphorical in the term of, I see it too now. Like, I recognize the signs. I can see it brewing. And we're going to deal with it head on now as a family. You don't need to go through this on your own now. And there was a drop in my stomach when it happened, because it felt like, oh, after all this time, he's been trying to warn them, and now they're not there anymore, and so he can't protect them anymore. There was a bit of that, but then alongside that, there was also this element of, oh, actually, it would render the whole film kind of pointless and sort of undercut a lot of the mental health stuff that meant so much to me if the storm was really real. To me, it felt much more like, we're going to deal with this now together. I see it with you, and this is not a thing you have to deal with individually anymore.
But can't it be
That's
both?
the thing.
Can't they
Absolutely.
have...
It is both. It's like the actual heart of the story, I think, it is about his journey and his mental health, but I think it's also about the disconnect between that family, because what I really love about it, and what Jeff Nichols as a director is very good at doing, he's really good at making just nice families. His whole crisis tears them apart in a way that is so heartbreaking. And so I think that's the thing, it's whether or not you believe that he's right or not, it almost doesn't matter. What's important is her recognizing it and her saying, okay, as you said, I'm with you in this moment. We're together. That disconnect isn't there anymore. Like, that's...
Okay, well, that was great. I'm going to award some points now. I mean, Bam predicted this from the start. Hey. Independence Day is going to get 3 points. I'm going to give Take Shelter 2 points because I think that ending... And there's a few other scenes in that as well, like the big... argument, or not even argument, like the breakdown he has in public is a very memorable scene as well. I'm going to give that 2 points. And Day After Tomorrow, I'm going to give 1 point because there are some great moments in it, and they've stood the test of time in terms of like the CGI and pushing in terms of technically what's possible in film forward. But I think Independence Day just does it a bit better, and I
kind of gave that one away.
It's a bit different.
Yeah.
So that's what we got. Let's take a look at the points at the moment. Independence Day and Take Shelter are neck and neck with 5 points each, and Day After Tomorrow only on 2 points. Bam, you've got to stop like giving your arguments away to the other film. I think you've got to argue for your one no matter what, even if you do believe it's not the best.
Hey, that's on me.
Okay, the next round is craft, and now we come to the catch-all round. So here we can discuss anything behind the camera and what went into making it as good as it is, be that cinematography or score or VFX, anything about it that you think separates it in terms of the way it was produced from the other films. And Hannah, I'm going to start with you on this one.
I mean, I've already mentioned, I feel like the crowning glory of Independence Day is the visual effects. It won an Academy Award for visual effects. And like, if you just reading up on what went into it, I mean, like I said before, like 95% of this was practical effects. They had like, there was like 4,000 different. They create scale models to achieve these shots. So they'd have the cameras set up, and they actually employed like 6 different visual effects companies to create it. They were all working in tandem. You know, the digital people coming in. You know, it's just such an amazing like kind of endeavor, an effort. And this film costs like $100 million, which is a lot. But if you consider like how much goes into Marvel movies, that most of it is kind of CGI, whereas this is actually like people setting up physically.
It's nice to have that in a movie, especially when we're used to now. It's why Christopher Nolan, gets such a celebration, and the Mission Impossible movies get such a celebration for doing things practically when it's so easy now to do things in post-production.
Yeah, it's like what Werner Herzog said when he was doing Mandalorian. He was like, use a puppet, you cowards. Like, yeah, he's like,
I love his quote where he says, like, I mean, it's not about visual effects, but when he's saying, I believe that storyboards are the instruments of cowards.
But yeah, so there's that. I mean, and talking about like the aliens, I think the aliens are proper scary. And the way they looked, and they were real as well. Like, you felt it when Will Smith punches him in the face. You see it felt real. And I think to be able to do that in 1996, this is 25 years ago now, like that was just, I think, an amazing achievement.
It took what Jurassic Park had done and sort of amplified it, just took it up to 11. The idea of like combining visual effects with practical effects, and I agree, I think it holds up. Bam, what do you think about The Day After Tomorrow?
I think, right, I will 100% take, like, without Independence Day, you wouldn't have Day After Tomorrow. But because of that, everything in Day After Tomorrow, like having watched it recently in preparation for this, it doesn't look out of place in 2020 as far as like the whole of
2021.
Like 2021 even. We're in the future now. Like it looks so good, and it's taken that idea of like there is practical. They're definitely on some huge sets with what they're doing, but it's seamless in between. Like the wave is a little bit shaky, but you know what? Overall, near enough every effect they went for in that, even the wolves at the time, like where they go into like the CGI wolves and stuff, it looks incredible. Like it looks so good. So like thank you to Independence Day for paving the way, but the perfection was in this movie. Like, they moved it forward completely and used the fact that they're a little bit like a few years on to really just like play with all of the CGI that they used in it. But like, transforming the whole of New York into like this Ice Age like landscape is done so perfectly, like across it. Like it looks so good. So that's definitely in its bag, like as far as like the effects go and stuff. The story, the heart of the story, it's a father-son story, As someone that didn't have the greatest connection with my dad, wished he was around a lot, that is a tale that many people can relate to, and they really did a good job. Yes, it's a bit crazy for a dad to be like, you know what, I'm going straight into the heart of the storm to find my son. But at the same time, it's a
story,
of love.
it's a metaphor.
Yeah, it's the power of love, which, as you guys have said, it's about, if you want that hope and stuff, that's where the hope is. It's not saying everyone's going to survive or anything like that. It's just one man being like, I'm going to try to get my son out of this. So I think like it has a very solid story in comparison to its predecessor in the sense of Independence Day. But I just think like you can't give it too much, but you can also give it looks like I'm saying, every time I'm trying to recycle, I have a little vision of, oh no, but what if the storm hits? And I also really like the fact that it's a few years after Final Destination, but a lot of the sort of disaster elements that they threw in have a bit of a Final Destination feel to it in the way that it takes people out, which I thought was like a nice influence in a way. So there's some really like good personal moments, like where the dude's looking out at his, he's like, you're in the middle of the storm, and he's like watching it on TV, and the guy tries to get in his car, and then that truck just comes flying over and crushes him. There's loads of moments like that where the dude's hanging into the mall, and he just like cuts himself like selflessly so they can go on. There's loads of great moments like that tied in with effects that really pull it in together.
Clarisse, what do you think that Take Shelter has in its craft department that makes it stand out?
I mean, just to pick on one thing, I think the editing is really what kicks it up a notch by Park Gregg, I believe, because I think Take Shelter, you have to be inside that guy's head to really understand like the dynamics of what's happening and to emotionally sort of connect with what's going on, because it is quite abstract if you're looking at it from 5 steps away. And so what's so beautiful about this movie, you kind of mentioned it before, that the line between what is reality and what is either his dreams, because sort of the repeating idea is that he keeps having these horrible nightmares that are showing the future, but then also sometimes he has moments where he seems to be awake, but then there's something not quite right, and there's a lot that I think we as an audience aren't noticing necessarily, even the way that the other characters are framed. just so that the camera sort of carefully steps around them. So it's not obvious that maybe they aren't noticing what he's seeing. Like I think there's one moment where he's with his work buddy and he looks over and he sees all the birds circling and they're creating all these weird shapes. But they really, maybe this is more of a
I actually don't think
thing.
they show the birds in that scene. I think in that scene, I think this is, I'm complimenting it. I think in that scene, in the editing, you can place that in. But I think you see him say, "Have you ever seen birds move like that?"
Because you hear the birds.
Yeah.
I think I'm misremembering it. This is
But
bad.
that's the genius of the sort of
That
the
is,
difference
yeah.
between being in a dream or being in reality is that you remember it in a specific way as well.
Yeah, and also like what I really love about the scene is that the work friend, they blocked him just that he's behind the machine so that there's no way that he would be able to see what's happening over there. And so it's something so subtle that you watching the movie are not going to be like, I noticed that he's standing there. But you are just sort of subconsciously taking all of this in. And so then we get to this ending. I think it really leaves you open to be able to decide on your own whether you think it's true or not, because you've been given the evidence subconsciously. And so you feel prepared to go, yes, the storm is real. No, the storm is in his head. And I don't know. I love that kind of filmmaking. I love the unspoken stuff because I think those are the things that really move us. It's really easy to just write a big old speech where this isn't a diss of Independence Day.
Honestly, Clarisse, I should keep count on how
Help me
many
out,
times
help me
it's
out.
coming out.
Please do.
It's not
This is-
intentional. That was not intentional. But I'm just saying, like, he could have had like a big old speech being like, "This is what I see and this is what I experience." But you see so much of it just through his reactions and where the camera is, and that's enough. That's enough, baby.
I am struggling to decide what to do here because there's no doubt that the craft of Independence Day in terms of a technical achievement is fantastic. And I'm a big fan of stuff like that.
It won an Academy Award.
For visual effects, I'm sure. But I think the craft of Take Shelter in terms of the way it's written, directed, acted, shot, edited, I think the craft of Take Shelter is, in my opinion, stronger overall to tell a better story and to be, in my opinion, a more enjoyable movie. So I think I'm going to say Take Shelter's got 3 points.
It's just a better movie. What can I
Independence Day
say?
has 2 points, and I'm so sorry, Bam,
Wow.
but
Okay.
I'm starting to see what's going on
in
here.
this test again?
it's very scientific. It's
I'm
all
starting
opinion.
to
Don't worry
see
about
what's
the
going
science.
on here.
It's cool. I'm fine. Guys, I'm okay. Laid over till the fat lady sings.
No,
and I'm
because
not
it might
singing
be
yet.
over. It might
At
be
the
over
moment,
for me.
the
How much points?
leaderboard, Day After Tomorrow on 3 points, Independence Day on 7 points, and Take Shelter is on 8 points. So it still can be pulled back. And you never know, I might pull out some random points at some point. Who knows what I'm going to do? It's chaos. The next round is cast. Now, a cast can make or break a film. So I want to know why your cast, ensemble or not, is the best. And we can talk about specific performances. We can talk about casting choices, anything to do with the actors in the film. Bam, take us away. Jake Gyllenhaal.
Yeah, I mean, that's the answer, though, isn't it? Like, that's
Sorry, it
pretty-
really is. I feel like you should just get a point for Jake Gyllenhaal because
Yeah, can we-
I
can
absolutely
Maybe a little
love him.
bonus point for Jake Gyllenhaal.
Yeah, can we
Honestly,
do that?
100%.
Other than that, like...
Is everybody okay with that? Little bonus
I
point?
endorse
Yeah.
any points for Jake Gyllenhaal.
I endorse
love
Jake
him.
Gyllenhaal.
All right, so Bam's already got a point, so
Hey, I'll
he's
take
already winning.
I'm not winning, but it's getting close.
I just need to give you any hope you can get.
Yeah, I mean, I'll take it at this point as well. So, yeah, no, overall, right? No, I wasn't personally too familiar with the cast at the point in time, but that kind of works in a movie like this for me because it shows me that this could happen to anyone at any time. I don't like seeing, like, if like we said about, like, you know, you see Will Smith, Jeff Goldblum in the film, things are all right. You know, they're going to come out on top.
It's a
We're
decent
doing
point.
all right.
You can't
see some
suspend your
people-
disbelief if you know that Jeff Goldblum's going to make it.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you know he's going to make it. The paycheck says
He
he's
fought
going to make it.
dinosaurs.
Yeah, exactly. And Will Smith is out here punching aliens. I think he'll be all right. So overall,
That's how he greets the alien.
Yeah,
That's the first
You know
experience he
what?
has
This
with
is
it. He
really
punches it in the
unfair.
face.
Because you're talking about this as we're watching it in 2021. In 1996, Will Smith was not a leading man. Jeff Goldblum, like these.
Had
were
he done Men in Black
Yeah,
yet?
exactly.
No,
Men in
he's
Black the
done it
next year.
afterwards.
Right.
Okay.
I will get to this, but I am ready to come for you for
all
that.
right, but no,
I mean,
to be
it
fair,
doesn't need to be a one thing at a time thing. Everybody else can
but
jump
like,
in.
Okay, right. Will
know.
Smith, he got that is his breakthrough leading man film. Once he did Independence Day, right? He did Bad Boys with Martin Lawrence just before. He did Independence Day. Suddenly he gets Men in Black.
But he's still the Fresh Prince.
He did Fresh Prince, but that was TV. His breakthrough
And
as a
comedy.
performer,
This is a big
that's
budget.
it. He did 6 Degrees of Separation, and that's how Roland Emmerich spotted him. It was like he liked him in that. Not a major big movie, but he liked him in that. And then suddenly that took him to leading. Like that's why he was asked to do. That's why they wanted him for The Matrix, because he was,
And thank God he said
Will
no
Smith.
to that.
Yeah, but then and then suddenly now like Will Smith has become this like leading man, especially on sci-fi. Like he did iRobot, I Am Legend. Like the Independence Day established him as a charismatic hero, and also just the fact that he cast a black man to play a hero at that time. Not just a black man, you've got Jeff Goldblum, a Jewish guy. So you've got a black guy and a Jewish guy saving the day. How amazing is that to see in 1996? Because, we think we're getting progress, and you think 90s it was quite a while ago, and actually that was such a progressive move. I mean, Harry Connick Jr. is in that movie. He plays like a side note. He is the all-American guy that you'd expect in this film, right? But no, they cast these two guys. So yes, I get it. Now it's like, well, of course, Will Smith and Jeff Goldblum. You watch now, of course it'll be okay. But back then you're like, oh, these are new guys. I wonder if they'll save the day.
I don't know if I can say that Jeff Goldblum was
Jurassic
a new guy.
Park, innit?
But Jurassic Park, yeah. But Bam, I'm fighting in your corner a little bit here, because Jake Gyllenhaal had just done Donnie Darko a few years before.
Yeah, he was in a similar position. This is like, I'm not gonna say this is the movie that elevated him up there, but at the same time, it really put him on the map. As a lead in a fairly big movie, like in the same way that it happened for Will Smith. Like, it's the same thing right here. And as I said, like, the fact that I personally didn't know too much of the cast only made him stand out more, because I'm like, wow, Donnie Darko's out here, man. He's surviving this. I can't believe it.
What do you think about Dennis Quaid, though? Because don't you think he's a little bit of a poor man's Harrison Ford?
Hey, it's a little bit like we called Harrison Ford, you're right, but he didn't answer. But you know what? He does a good job. He does a good job of being like a defiant scientist and plays his role very, very well. And just as a little thing for the future episode that we're going to shoot, yeah? Remember the name. That's all I'm going to say. Remember the name.
Clarisse?
Well, I think Take Shelter is one of my favorite uses of Michael Shannon.
He's so good. He's always so good.
He's brilliant in everything.
He's the only good thing about Man of Steel.
That is true. But he kind of has two modes, right? There's the Michael Shannon, I'm going to murder you mode. I am your future killer, Michael Shannon. But then he's also really good at playing a super nice dad. I don't know if you've seen Midnight Special, which is also Jeff Nichols. Plays the sweetest dad ever. I just want Michael Shannon
really like
to be my
him
dad.
in Nocturnal Animals. I think that's my favorite Michael Shannon performance, where he's got both of those things going on again, where he's a sweetheart, but he's scary.
No, he's definitely a guy who could definitely if you catch him on a bad day, he'll straight up murder you. Like he's on the edge. He's on that knife point of I'm a really cool suburban dad, but actually I've got a deep secret and I'm holding it in. And actually get me. Yeah, I feel Michael Shannon plays that line so well.
I think my question here is, do any of these characters, for example, is this anyone's favorite Will Smith or Jeff Goldblum performance? Does it because I think that the cast in Take Shelter lifts it to it. If it was a different cast, that film just wouldn't work.
I think that's right about Independence Day.
Do you think so?
Every single person in that cast was picked purposefully. Like I said, Will Smith has that. I think one of the great things about as a disaster movie goes, it's so funny. They've every single person in that who's meant to be funny has got great comedic timing. Them two as a buddy, Jeff Goldblum and Will Smith, are great together. Every single person that got cast in this movie really lifted and created. So for me, definitely, it's one of those films where they work together. Their strength is in that ensemble. If it was just focused on Will Smith and Jeff Goldblum, I think we might have been a bit bored, but having that break and going to all these different people really worked. And also, Jeff Goldblum has never been more attractive to me than wearing a white vest.
Are you joking?
Yeah,
what about him lying
come on.
shirtless in Jurassic
Come
Park?
on.
You can't beat that.
No. The haircut, the glasses, the beaded necklace, the white vest, the plaid shirt. Jeff Goldblum, call me. But in 1996, now I'm okay.
Clarisse, we haven't heard enough about Michael Shannon and Jessica Chastain.
Michael Shannon. Well, I think the thing with Michael Shannon is that you've got these two modes, and yeah, like he combines them in other movies, but I think it is best combined here because it's all leading up to that moment where he's in the canteen or the dinner place and he just flips out and he goes, "There's a storm coming and none of you," and this is so interesting because up until this point he has been the gentle loving dad, the midnight special dad,
but you can feel it like bubbling. You can feel something there, and
then the snap, and his eyes look like they're gonna pop out of his head. It is such a magnificent, like, incredible piece of acting, and is it my favorite? I'm going to say it's my favorite Michael Shannon scene just for this so I can win. It's probably not true. But, and it's... and because he's such a brilliant actor, but I think Jack Nicholls really knows how to use him. And then to have Jessica Chastain, who is such a soothing presence to me. I mean, I know that she sort of plays around and she's really adaptable and she can do loads of different characters. But for me, the baseline Jessica Chastain state is lady kind of in charge of the situation. She knows what she's doing. Like, let's all be chill. Jessica Chastain's here. So I think having her, so kind of throwing her energy into that, so that for so much of the film, she's really trying to be the supportive wife. And she's really trying to be there for him. But when you see her start to crack, it's like, oh man, if Jessica Chastain's in trouble, we're all in trouble. Like, if she's having a struggle, like, handling this, like, it's a big problem. And that's the thing. I think it's not just about having two great actors at the center of this. It's the way that they have been cast and the way that they've been utilized to create this perfect dynamic between, like, husband and wife.
Okay. I know that people are going to get annoyed at me in the comments, but I don't care. This is my show and I get to decide. Take Shelter gets 3 points. I think that Independence Day works, but I think it makes it funny, and I think they add an element of charm to the film. But I think the selling point of Independence Day is look at things blow up rather than the cast and what they're going through and the dynamics between them. I don't particularly find it memorable that Jeff Goldblum and Will Smith teamed up. I don't particularly care. And Bam, I'm sorry, you do get an extra, so you get 2 points as well, because we got an extra point for Jake Gyllenhaal being in the film at all.
It's good enough.
Is this a rule for every episode? If your movie has Jake Gyllenhaal in it, you
get an extra point. I think so. I think we can make that a thing. Can we make that a thing? Yeah, we'll make that a thing.
I love it.
Let's take a look at the points. At the moment, Day After Tomorrow is on 5 points. Independence Day is on 9 points, and Take Shelter is on 11 points. And that leads us now into the final round, which is cultural impact. And it's a big one. How did your film change the landscape of cinema as we know it? Did it inspire an entire genre? Did it spark a trend? Did it kick off or revitalize a career? Did it coin a phrase or even change filmmaking forever? Whoever wants to speak first, go. Take the floor.
Not me.
I mean,
Sparks confidence.
I feel lulled into a false sense of security here, because I feel like each round I'm like, no, it's in the bag. But now I'm like, I don't know, is Independence Day have a cultural impact? And yes, it does. Actually, it really does. I feel like if I don't get full marks for this, I will close my laptop.
You're going to come to the other room.
I will angrily
up.
close my laptop and keep social distance. But I will be anyway. Right, let's get to it. Okay, Independence Day, the cultural impact of it. I mean, first of all, that is one of the most culturally significant shots. It did change the way disaster movies were made, right? After that, you got Deep Impact, Armageddon, Day After Tomorrow, 2012. Even if you look at, like, MCU, these images of mass destruction showed exactly what you can do in film, showed you the capabilities, not just with practical effects and kind of with models, but it inspired people to actually push the marks out and push the boat out and create these big event cinematic theatrical experiences that you watch in IMAX now, right? Also, right, legacy, Will Smith, as I said, it launched him as a leading man. He'd done Bad Boys, he'd done 6 Degrees of Separations just before Bad Boys. Obviously, it was good with Martin Lawrence, but really that cemented Will Smith as someone who could carry a film. Like I said before, the Super Bowl commercial, people started investing and spending money on Super Bowl commercials after witnessing the success it got.
Interesting.
Like, after it paid like 1.3
it changed film marketing.
Yeah. because they did such an amazing campaign. And after that, suddenly, you know, a lot of people credit the marketing campaign for how successful, you know, recently we saw The Meg, how well that did, and how, you know, a film that critically people don't love. I mean, I love it. We could do a whole thing on shark movies, but it did really well. I think what Fox did as a marketing team to create all these kind of like infomercials, work partnerships with Apple and stuff, it really changed the face of that and really influenced the way we you know, films are marketed nowadays. So there's 3 things of the cultural impact and legacy of Independence Day.
Okay, Clarisse, I think you've got the hardest job here, so because you've picked the smallest, most independent of
Can I
films.
pass?
So I'm gonna just let you go last, and Bam, I'm gonna come to you now.
I would
Talk to me
just say
about
it
Day
just-
After Tomorrow.
It changed, you know, quite like the movie. It changed the landscape of disaster movies moving forward. You know, I'm not going to say that's necessarily the best thing, because we get a lot of sort of bad disaster movies moving forward where they're like, what if the world attacked the world? You get like Geostorm and 2012 and things like that, right? But at the same time, that is you know, a compliment to the film itself, that it actually started to take what was a reality, a potential reality for us. Also, right, if the polar ice caps do melt and this movie becomes a reality, then this has won this category, like without a doubt, because it will have the most cultural influence that any movie ever had, because we will mostly be frozen over. So technically, if that does happen, then I've won this round.
Wouldn't it be more of a cultural influence if that didn't happen, because people watched the movie and were like, actually, we don't want this to happen, so guys, climate change is a real thing.
But it's because that movie proves that most humans are idiots and won't listen to proven science, so technically it will have had that influence anyway.
Interesting.
But I do agree.
It's an interesting angle to take on this, Bam, isn't it?
Hey, look, sometimes when you're already on fire, you just got to run through the wind, you know, and catch your blaze. So essentially, like, you know, we got a whole bunch of really bad disaster movies following on. Again, it pushed the scale upwards. It made us think about, like, again, pushing towards this sort of, like, you know, disasters don't have to be these, like, you know, catastrophic events that we don't have control over. It can be effects that we as people are creating around us, you know. And I think it took a point in time where global warming was such a big topic, and it still is today, you know, but they were really like, okay, we're going to show people how this can go. And I think that in itself has a massive influence on the average idiot. Like I'm saying, if you're someone like me now, that any time you think maybe I shouldn't recycle, maybe we should stop using fossil fuels, etc., etc.
You think about Day After Tomorrow.
Yeah, I think about that. It's in there, you know. So if it's done that to enough people out there, then that's a greater cultural influence than any other movie.
I respect this angle.
So
Clarisse, you are fighting a losing battle here with Take Shelter.
I mean, I love Midnight Special, and it meant that Jack Nicholls could make Midnight Special. I will say, I think Take Shelter was kind of part of this emerging trend that is really popular now, of the sort of like low budget, open-ended, highbrow sci-fi sort of, I know it's not really sci-fi, but sort of like genre tinged indie movies that are drama but with a genre like, it's definitely not the first one, so I'm really fighting a losing battle here. And I mean, it kind of helped Michael Shannon blow up in the semi-mild way he has. This is really hard. It's
Okay. Right.
I tried.
You did. Look, it was not going to be. It wasn't your
gonna
category.
fail.
You've done so well in all the other categories. Okay. Independence Day, Day After Tomorrow, Take Shelter. All right. I really like Bam's angle about thinking about things, thinking about the movie whenever he wants to recycle. I think that was a good angle to take.
I actually really respect that as well, Bam.
All right. Okay. Hannah, I'm going to give you your wishes. You get full marks for this.
It's
I think
not
you
my
are.
wishes. It's the objective
I think
scientific
it is
truth.
I think it is the truth. I think it is. I think it has the most cultural impact.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I think that it pushed visual effects forward, but it also did change the landscape of what a blockbuster could be. It did do that. Bam, you're in second place.
Hey,
You
but
get
not
2
in
points.
the game. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that Day After Tomorrow especially pushed forward what is possible with visual effects. And Jake Gyllenhaal. Always Jake Gyllenhaal. And Clarisse, this is just not your round. You're never going to get an independent film that's going to have this much cultural impact.
If
really.
maybe more people from after this video watch it,
I'd love that.
it might just become the #1 film in the
Maybe.
world. 'Cause I'm so...
Hey, look, these things happen. People watch things on home ends and suddenly
Exactly.
It's a cult classic. That's what we'll say.
Okay, the final results. It's interesting. Day After Tomorrow is on 7 points.
Hey.
But we're at a tie. Take Shelter and Independence Day are both at 12 points each.
This is giving me a virtual high five. 3.
So we need a tiebreaker, and luckily, I've got a game planned.
Okay.
It's called Unbox The Plot.
Unbox the plot.
So-
Unbox the plot. That was my jingle.
Thank you very much for that. I'll use that every time now. And so basically, the rules are very simple. I have 4 clues in here, 4 props, and you have 4 chances to guess what film from the disaster movie genre that I have picked. You ready?
Do we just shout it out?
I think shout it out when
Is
you're
it
ready.
one per object, or are we just yelling movies?
Yeah, you don't get to just like...
Bambi.
Yeah, exactly. You don't get to do that. That's not
Okay,
that's not the
what-
case.
Okay.
You've got to take this seriously. This is very
Okay.
serious, as I've said, scientific business.
Born serious. Okay, let's do it.
Oh, it's a bit ASMR, this, isn't it? I'm going to unbox the plot, everybody.
Let's do
The
this.
first clue. Sorry you're leaving. A going away card. Any ideas?
Sorry you're leaving. Going away, God.
You don't get to just like have several guesses. If you, I tell you what I'm going to say is I'm going to say that if you make a guess and you're wrong, you don't get to make a guess on the second.
Wait, is it? It's
Prop,
a
yeah.
disaster movie, right?
It's a disaster movie, yeah.
Okay, cool.
Okay, I have a guess.
Clarisse, are you going to guess on Sorry You're Leaving?
Is it Armageddon?
No, it isn't.
Um,
You see what I mean? You see what you try and guess too early, you try and be cocky, and this is what happens. Now you don't get to guess on the second prop.
oh, okay.
That's my rule. I've just made it up, and that's what we're doing. Okay, so Hannah, this is just for you now.
Oh, God. Okay, I've got 4 though, haven't I? 3 more. What is it? Statue of Liberty.
It's the Statue of Liberty.
Sorry, leaving. Statue of Liberty.
If you haven't got any guesses, we can go to the third. We can go to the third prop, and then
Okay.
Clarisse gets to guess again.
Oh, and then if I get it wrong, I don't get to.
Exactly.
Okay. Disaster
chaos.
movie. Oh, this is really hard. No,
Anything?
I can't.
All right,
I'm
okay.
gonna wait. Okay.
Sorry You're Leaving and the Statue of Liberty. People in the comments are probably going crazy right now.
I think I know
Like-
what it is, but I can't say anything.
Bam, mate. Keep it in your head. I'm expecting honesty from you. Don't change your answer.
This is what happens. You think you're
It's
so
in here.
smart, and then you do a game show game, and then you become the stupidest person in the world, which is what's
Okay.
happening to me right now.
This one, right? This is as soon as you see it, you got to say it because I think this might
Wait,
give
I
it
need
away.
my glasses.
This is the third. This is the
I'm
third
scared.
clue. There's
Don't build
4,
it
so
up,
don't-
'cause I'm
so
not
don't
gonna
shout
figure
it
it
out if you
out.
don't know it for sure.
Okay.
Okay.
Here we go. It's a video camera.
Oh, I know it. Cloverfield.
Hey! Hannah!
Oh!
So we've got a going away card because that's what it starts with. It starts with a going away party.
Yeah.
Yes.
It even says inside.
I thought
So Rob,
I was gonna say I
good
thought
luck
it
in
was
your new
gonna
job
be.
in Japan.
Oh, there you go. I thought
didn't
it
wanna
was
read
going
that
to
out. I
be
thought it was too
Godzilla
obvious. Ah.
at first because the statue living in New York, but
Statue
the
of Liberty.
Matthew Broderick one, right? I thought it was going, and I was
So
like,
another
no.
Roland Emmerich one. No, I try to forget about that. But the fourth clue would have been 4-leaf clovers.
Oh, there you go.
Bam. What did you think it was?
Yeah, Cloverfield.
Did you?
100%.
All right. I'm going to trust you, Bam.
Real and convincing voice.
Yep, that's what. It definitely wasn't Planet of the Apes in my head.
That's what I wanted this to be. I wanted this to be confusing.
That would actually be a really good one because he goes away and he comes back and it's like
To the Statue of Liberty, right? That's what I thought it would. Yeah.
Because I was trying to think of somebody who had an actual card in a movie, and I thought, do they leave?
You gotta
like,
think
Ben
more
Affleck
abstractly.
one? I see.
Yeah.
This is it.
I see. Okay.
It's a good little game, right?
Yeah, it works
I
for me.
love it. I won.
Well, Hannah, congratulations. You are the first official winner of the Screen Test Award. I'm going to pass it to you now through time and space.
Oh, look at that. Look at that. I mean, it's so good. Like, I cannot believe you managed to get that to me so easily. Socially distanced prize giving. I love it. It's going to sit proudly on my toilet with some...
On the toilet.
Yeah, people have to pick it up
Yeah.
when they need the loo. I say people, I live on my own, so me. Me.
Just
I'll do.
a nice reminder every time. Well, congratulations. You're the first winner of the Screen Test Award.
Yay.
It's official. Independence Day is the greatest disaster movie ever made. That is
Yay.
scientifically proven, at least
Yeah.
by the Screen Test and Hannah.
Facts are facts.
But we also want you to have your say as well. So leave a comment below or tweet us at Prime Video UK to let us know your favourite disaster film. Thank you so much for joining me, and we'll be back next week to fight over the best sci-fi film ever made. So hit the like button and subscribe to make sure you don't miss it. Bye.